fuck going on with this?
GCI, yeah, that shit gon' fall. Rather die than my bitch to the tone.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Cupcake Media. With all the mayhem of everything being so expensive, we decided, especially cars, because when they're selling Ford Broncos for $100,000 because of ADMs, which are known as adjusted dealer markups, which are quite insane, or as we just like to call it, dealer markup. ADM became a fancy term that all the little cupcakes on the internet started making. And the reality is, things are just out of control as we begin the brand new year of 2022. So we wanted to just take a trip down memory lane and talk about, what if you don't want to pay $100,000 for a Ford Bronco? Because you know what? That pricing is quite insane and catastrophic and stupid, with all due respect. So if you're in the market for a new car, and even used cars are expensive, let's just give you some options. We are in a 2017 BMW M3 Comp Pack. It is in the most awesome color, I think, the brand has ever made, which is the Austin Yellow. It looks green to some people, it looks gold to some people. At the end of the day, it is a very cool color. It has a 6-speed manual. Now, for our friends who might live in Australia, Asia, and Europe, if you don't care about 0 to 60, the manual is very fun. It's not the best feeling manual. For example, anytime I drive a Porsche manual, they just got a crispness to it, which is amazing. But I'm not gonna dog on why this manual gearbox isn't, for example, as firm as a Porsche gearbox. I'm just so appreciative that it is a manual gearbox. Now remember, you do lose a lot of speed in the manual gearbox compared to the DCT that came on the F80 M3s. But this car has a tune from Boot Mod, which is wonderful. We calibrated it to also do the auto shifting when you go from 5th to 4th, for example. So when you're downshifting, it does auto rev match, which is wonderful, because when you live in a place like LA and you barely get to 6th gear, and when you do, it's more climatic than having an orgasm because you get so happy. You really do appreciate the fact that the car does the auto rev matching as you downshift. Now, coming to this car, stock wise, it has 444 horsepower. The torque is probably, somewhere up there. You guys can Google it later. Those things are important. But let's just talk about the way the car feels. I really love the F80 M3. There are some people who absolutely love, for example, the E90, which was like the unicorn of all the M3s because it had a V8. Some people, are going to love the E36s and so on and so on. But for me, this car was kind of the car that sits in an unusual spot in today's era, where you have the new M3s and M4s out. It was the first car from BMW that truly became modernized, which is wonderful. Now, the engine from the inside sounds spectacular. On the outside, yes, it can sound a little squeaky rattly, which is okay. But when we compare it to what's on the market today, I just don't know what you can find, new or used, that dollar for dollar is an amazing car. It gives me everything that I need. It's not overpowered like a silly Tesla Plaid S, Plate S, however you want to call it. It has a lot of usable power. It's a car that if you want to take it to the track, you can. I just recommend having an extra set of wheels so that you're not burning through tires so much. Look at the way this thing is going, dude. It handles so spectacular. Now, one thing on this car that we ended up doing was, because LA's roads destroyed the stock suspension, the stock suspension essentially broke after 60,000 miles, okay? We ended up going to Raceworks Engineering. We We talked with them heavily, and boy, did we bother the shit out of those poor owners with Casey and Daniel. But man, Casey did a wonderful job in just answering everything as thoroughly as my physics professor would have done back in college. Because we initially wanted to get KWs, and he broke down the science as to why we shouldn't. So we got MCS one-ways on this car. They are fantastic. As someone who drives Porsche GT3 RS cars and Porsche GT cars, I can tell you that on certain turns, going through canyons, this car feels as stable right now with its weight as my Porsche GT car. The MCS has done wonders. We initially had a very aggressive track alignment, which seemed to have been making a lot of road noise that we did not like. We went back to Raceworks. Those guys were awesome. They redid the alignment. Apologies there. And they redid the alignment just for a little bit more of a street focus. Now the car feels much better on the road. We're not getting as much, noise coming from the dampers up front. For people interested in the MCS, I think it transforms your BMW night and day. Both my wife and I have commented how the car is significantly more comfortable on bumps, and we have a lot of bumps in California. We are a third world country, and it's very embarrassing for me to say that, but with all the money we pay and all the taxes we pay, which are more than Germany, we don't even get 10% of those services. So for our terrible roads, this suspension is magic. Okay, this thing is from a different universe. It handles bumps extremely well. You will sacrifice a little bit of road noise, but hey, that's okay. Maybe that brings back a charm to the vehicle that is lacking from today. You know, when you drive a 997 GT3 or a GT3 RS, for example, there's a lot of noise in there, and it was very, very cool. I think if you definitely maybe want to minimize some of the road noise, maybe get the Pilot Sport 4S's. Right now, these are riding on Pilot Sport Cup 2s, which could probably be contributing a little bit to the extra noise, but overall, freaking fantastic. The car really transformed itself once we got the suspension. It became much more enjoyable, especially if you're driving the manual. I do recommend you can get Carbon, you can get Mod, just have them program in there the auto rev match, because when you drive in a heavy traffic city like LA, it's awesome. I don't care what anyone says, or people, oh, it's stupid, da da da. No, dude, it makes driving a manual that much more enjoyable. And I wish it's something that they had eons ago in manual cars. Don't get me wrong, there's something very cool about being able to heel toe shift all the time. But sometimes you just get tired of that shit, and it's nice seeing that you can make a manual car be more enjoyable. You know, this car and I, we've had some memories together. There's a point where I was really looking forward to getting rid of the car and getting into what would have been now the G80, but back then we didn't know what the G80 was going to look like. But I could tell you, during COVID, this car and I bonded heavily. And part of it just because driving in LA becomes so much more enjoyable. I love this F80 chassis a lot. I always have from day one, and with the MCS one-ways, the car has been reborn again. It's got a little over 65,000 miles. I mean, the interior still looks brand new. The car is holding up amazing. And when you compare today's car segment, and I see the prices that people are paying for some of these newer cars, they're nowhere near as good as what this is even on the used car market. It's really shocking that some new cars, which should be like $30,000, are probably just as expensive as an F80 M3 used car. You know, it is so shocking to see, like, for example, a Ford Bronco costs more than a used F80 M3 or an F80 or a F82 M4. We're going to primarily stick with the M3 because that's what we really like in the F80s. We love the way the M3s have always looked, the wider body stands, the arch on the flares, for the wheel wells. I mean, they all looked a lot better to us. They're a lot more like profound. But this car's fully enjoyable, man. got Apple CarPlay. It's, you know, it's got everything you need. Engine is great. Fuel economy is great. You know, it really makes you question, where are cars headed towards in the future? Where are they now? When we look at, for example, the G80 M3, which in compact all-wheel drive form is a complete just slayer on the road, on the track. But the car looks hideous. I mean, I've seen quite a few now, but I can't say that it's a better car in a sense. It's a much faster car, but I can't say it's a better car per se on the track, you know, against this car, which has MCS. I'd have to drive them both back to back. I know stock wise the new G80 and just two-wheel all-wheel drive, they do wonders. They are really doing some magic out there. But I haven't seen a lot of G80s be sold. You don't see a whole lot on the streets. They're very, you know, you might see a little bit here and there. And when you put the two side to side, ironically, the F80 for a lot of people looks newer than the G80, which is quite interesting. You know, the design of the new M3s and M4s with those big kind of nostril Bugs Bunny teeth, they're not really that pleasant to look at. It's a shame because those cars from the back look fantabulous. I love the deep roar that those new engines give, but is faster newer always better? I have to say in this case, no, it's not. I really love the size of this car. It's a little bit smaller than the G80. And I just don't like how every new car has to be bigger than its predecessor. We don't need bigger cars. I mean, if we're really getting that big and fat, then we as a country and as a population of this planet have to reach a consensus that we got to get skinnier. We got to get in shape, because when you go and park cars, for example, parking spaces were designed for cars from 40 years ago. They just don't fit. They don't let cars of today easily fit in these spaces. I mean, when you have bigger cars, guess what? They take up more space on the road. Guess what that does? Creates more unnecessary traffic, because it's like this. Imagine when you're driving to like Utah in the United States, right? And you're hitting that patch of road where it's just nothing but big rigs, right? There's not a lot of traffic. It's just the big rigs are so damn big, they create traffic. And I'm not here to diss any bigger drivers. We fucking love you guys, okay? We're just talking about for the everyday consumer, the everyday driver, right? When you have, you know, cars that are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, the issue you deal with is just they take up more space on the road. When you take up more space on the road, you create more unintended consequences, and one of those unintended consequences is more traffic, unfortunately. So we like this car for many reasons. It's compact, but it's not super compact. It's just a compact, good sized car. It's got the right dimensions. The back seats give probably more space than Porsche Taycan does, and that car lengthwise and widthwise is astronomically bigger than this car. The trunk probably gives just as much space as most SUVs, and I put that in quotations, for cars today. I mean, this car does it all. Oh, and did I forget to mention, this car in the rain does magic. My own wife thought this car feels like an all-wheel drive car. The chassis setup, the way it's just designed, this car comes alive in the rain. There are things you can do in this car in the rain that I can probably tell you I probably can't do in my Porsche because the bumper will rip off. And I really want to give a nice shout out to Chris Hill from Precision Racing Institute. We were out at Thermal about a year and a half ago. It was pouring rain, and we were hitting puddles at like over 60 miles an hour, and the cars never spun. I mean, these cars are just solid. You will not find a better car, dollar per dollar, than this car, than when it was new, and now that it's used. There was a time when I hated this manual because it was just so annoying. But over time, I really appreciate it. I love it. I love the car I love that this car is a stick shift. And you know what? More importantly, I really cherish the fact that it's the last M3 Comp Pack in a manual. There's something special about that, because we don't know what's going to happen in cars in the next 8 to 10 years. What we do know is there's a lot of electrification, which is bullshit, and we don't know if electrified cars are going to get more than a 1 or 2 speed transmission. If you want to sell me on a proper EV, I don't care. Make it even DCT, make it dual clutch, whatever. Give me at least something more than 2 gears. Give me an EV that I can row gears in. I don't care if it doesn't do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, but it might make the EV driving experience a little bit more involved, a little bit more entertaining. I hope they make hydrogen-based cars and synthetic fuel-based cars that still have these manuals. I really do hope and do believe that hydrogen cars and synthetic fuel-based cars may revive manual gearboxes, because they'll be able to meet all those stupid, silly, stringent environmental regulations on a segment of cars which are really becoming niche worldwide, except for segments of Europe where, well, many of the consumer cars are still manual. So don't take them away. I would love to see car manufacturers that made some of the best manual transmissions ever, like Ferrari, come back into the game, because maybe hydrogen technology and synthetic fueling technology will allow them to make their so beloved and cherished and coveted gated manuals. I want to see M3s still be offered in a manual transmission, and be offered a manual transmission in their comp packs, in their top of the line comp packs, such as the all-wheel drive versions. So this car for me is special. You know, it's the last of a dying kind. It is like the samurai. And if you are looking for a new car and they're trying to mark it up to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, you know what? Go look at some M3s. You're not going to be disappointed. It's got the right amount of power. It's got the right amount of oomph. It sounds wonderful. It's got CarPlay. I love it. Nothing, you know, I hate to say it, but like, you know, the new cars just don't excite me the way these do. I mean, look at this thing, dude. It's just fun. It handles so good. You feel so much from the car. I mean, they're just not going to make cars like these anymore. Not only for the M3s, but Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Mustangs, Camaros are gone. I mean, there's just something so intoxicating about these cars and what they represent and what they can do. So you know what? On that note, I know we live in a world where there's this constant, you know, this constant penis contest of who's got more horsepower. But if you know, for me, a car that has a lot of horsepower doesn't excite me. It's got to have the looks. It's got to have the handling. It's got to have the brakes. It's got to have the usability. You're never going to be able to use 1,000 horsepower on any road in the world, not even Germany, okay? With amazing high speed, you know, autobahns, you're not going to be able to thoroughly enjoy it. But this car just fits in that happy medium. It's got enough power to just feel fast. It's got enough capability where if you want to track it, you can tune it slightly, you know, through like Carbon, through Boot Mod, and you'll be able to punish just a lot of people on your track day events. This is a car you can take to the grocery store. This is a car you can pick up the kids in. It's a car, you know, if you have a date, you can get your date's panties wet. Or if you're a girl driving it, you'll give the guy a hard on, you know? It does it all. And cars today that are coming out in the 2020s, for all their shenanigans and gizmos, they're kind of like OnlyFans or Pornhub. Yeah, you get to see something really exciting, but there's just something of value missing there. There's something of substance missing there. There's that connection missing there. And this is what excites me about this F80. They just did such an awesome job with everything, from the design, the looks. I mean, you just won't find a car that looks this pretty and goes this fast and drives this fun and can drive comfortably and can drive in the rain and can carry you a lot of stuff. You know, it has cargo space, which puts, like I said, most SUVs to shame for its size. I mean, it's a jack of all trades. It is a super sedan, and it is a proper super sedan. And I love this manual. I do. The one thing I do have to say about BMW is the clutch is very soft. And in the beginning, I hated it. But over time, I truly, truly loved it because it makes driving so much more easier. So on that note, before you go spend $100,000 on a Ford Bronco, maybe take a look at a car like the F80 M3. You won't be disappointed, and you're gonna just fucking love driving this thing every day because you know what? You are gonna be cool, you're gonna be different, and the car definitely wasn't made for cupcakes. Have a great day, everyone.